So what we're going to do first is unwind the warp thread. It's a cotton thread, and one side is wrapped around the center of the butterfly. So unwind that part, and then after that it's folded in half. So you can just grab both ends, shake it out, and it shouldn't get knotted up. Just make sure it doesn't get knotted up. Then you're going to thread your needle by using the bunny ear method. You're going to fold the tail in half. You're going to insert your tapestry needle there. Pull that side through. And then you're going to pull the tapestry needle up to where it's folded in half. There is a bit of a tail. We're going to keep that tail. It's about 2 feet. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to take the loom, put it in your hands, and we're going to think about it as if it were a wheel, and our job is to put the spokes on the wheel. There's 23 openings around the circumference of the circle. So just envision that the one on the top is number 1, and it wraps around all the way to 23. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, etc., like a dial. And you can go clockwise or counterclockwise. I'm right-handed, so it makes more sense for me to go clockwise. So I'm going to start here on the top. This is going to be 1. I'm going to come up through the back at 1. And I'm going to let this tail drag in behind, but I'm going to pinch the tail with my index finger so it doesn't slip out. The next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to count around to opening 13. So this would be 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. And this is where I'm going to go down through the back of the loom. And that's going to complete one of the warp threads. You're essentially dividing your loom in half, but you'll notice that one side does look bigger than the other. Then you're going to come up at 2. Make sure that you make your thread a little bit longer by sliding it up so that 2 of the threads don't get caught in the loom. You just want to have 1 thread at all time. So now that we've come up through 2, you're going to notice a V shape. The next place we're going to go is opening 14, over the top, down through the back. Notice that you have an X on the front of your loom. Now I'm holding this tail here so that the tension is good. You want to keep the tension consistent throughout the warping process. So you don't want it to be too loose, and you don't want it to be so tight that it could break. So you're going to go up through the back, and you'll notice there's now an X on the back as well. So whatever we're doing on the front is going to be mirrored on the back. Come up through 3 and down at 15. Come up at 4 and down at 16. So the tension got a little loose. I'm just going to tighten it up again by pulling this side of the tail and this side of the tail. I'm going to come up through 5 and down at 17. Up through 6 and down at 18. Up through 7, down at 19. We're continuously wrapping the warp around in either a clockwise or counterclockwise manner. Come up at 8, down at 20. Come up at 9, down at 21. up at 10, down at 22. Up at 11, down at 23. And then we're going to go up at 12. You're going to notice that we need one more warp to complete all the spokes on the wheel on both the front and on the back. So we're going to go ahead and complete that last warp on the front. There's no more openings available. So what we're going to do is we're going to tuck the thread under this triangular shape right here. You'll notice it's directly across from where you need the warp thread, and it's smaller than all the rest. So what you're going to do is you tuck it underneath the top warp threads and bring it back towards the same direction. You'll see that the threads are going to start to join the center. And to secure it, we're going to start to weave it around in a circular motion, either going clockwise or counterclockwise, starting over one of the warp threads and then under a warp thread, over one and then under, over, under, over, under. You're going to want to go around at least 2 times. And once you go around 2 times, you can hitch knot the tail around one of the warp threads. Basically, you're just putting a knot around the warp thread a couple of times to secure it. And then you're able to just cut the tail off so it stays out of the way. And so now when you turn it around, there's only one more warp thread that we need to finish. But before we do that, it's a good time to pause to insert the crystal into the warp, because you've got a separation here and you've got a little opening in here. It's a good time to do that. So we have this beautiful variegated agate crystal that we're going to go ahead to rest it right between the 2 warps on the front and the back. And it should fit there pretty easily. It'll slide around because we have to secure it still, but if you hold it this way rather than this way, it shouldn't bounce around too much. So we're going to go ahead and thread this last tail onto the tapestry needle. And you'll notice there is a small triangle opposite of where a warp thread is needed. So we'll just slide the tapestry needle under that, but over the crystal, coming up through the same direction. You're going to notice that the threads are going to start to draw in towards the center. And now we can start weaving around. You can pick anywhere and go over and under, the same way that you did on the front. You want to go around at least twice to ensure that the warp thread is secure. And then once you've gone around a couple of times, you can knot around the hitch knot. I'm just going to cut the tail off so it stays out of the way. We can move our crystal around anywhere where we'd like to place it. I think I'd like to have it right in the center here. And then we're going to grab our yarn cake. And it's a fairly long piece of yarn, so I would recommend that you break it into thirds or in half so that it's easily managed. We're going to thread the yarn with the tapestry needle using the bunny ear method. I fold the yarn almost in half, leaving a bit of a tail just so it's a little bit easier to work with. And I hold the crystal in place in the loom. Now instead of weaving with these openings, we're going to build the weft around the warp threads by using the openings here. These are the openings between the spokes, and we're thinking about the front and the back warps coming together as one. So here we are, we're coming up through the back and up through the front, and then we're going to go down through the back. And then just for now, I'm just going to hold it in place. And then we're going to come up through the next slot. You can go clockwise or counterclockwise. You're going to want to push your yarn towards the center of the crystal. And this, once we go around once and then again twice, the second time around, the crystal will be secured into the loom. So you can see that my crystal slid a little bit from where I wanted to keep it. You can just push it up. We're about halfway around the crystal, just going around once. Oh, I just love this blue lace agate. It really is a great friend when you're working on speaking your truth and expressing yourself creatively. It's a perfect stone to help you create that balance and let yourself be expressive through your creative arts. So I'm starting to go around for the second pass, which means that the crystal is going to start to stay embedded into your loom, into your woven piece. So you can make any adjustments if you want it to be in a different location. You can start to move it around to where you would rather have it if it's not in a position that you want it to be. I have a feeling that it's asking to be right here, so I'm going to leave it right where it wants to be. And I'm reminded of our meditation for this particular throat chakra. And I create as I speak. My words and thoughts are strong and true. This is a great project to work on if you've got a public speaking gig coming up, or if you needed to talk to a friend about how you really feel about something, or if you are trying to get in tune with your own inner voice. And communication is so important for creative expression. I create as I speak. My words and thoughts are strong and true. Now I'm going to come back in the opposite direction because I have my crystal resting on the bottom of the loom there. So I'm just going to change direction. So as you're building your weft around, keep in mind that it's not like the warp where you want it in tension. You want your yarn to naturally rest between the warp threads. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and grab the yarn cake and a new length of yarn. Nice generous long piece, but not too long so it's still convenient to handle, but you don't want it too short either. We're going to take our tapestry needle and thread the needle with the yarn. I fold it almost in half so it's a little easier to manage. And then we can start weaving. Well, you can start anywhere. I'm going to start over here. It'll leave a little tail. Hide that later. And just proceed in the same manner. I think there's such liberation in speaking my truth, you know, thinking back when I maybe had to tell somebody something about my feelings, whether they liked it or not. You know, you can say such things in the way, not to offend, but still being honest and truthful. And I always feel so much better after I tell somebody how I actually feel in an honest and respectful way. And I think that goes along with expressing ourselves creatively as well. I'm going to go ahead and tuck the tail in between the weft, going between the front and the back, and then just cutting the tail off. I'll go ahead and cut this tail off as well. So for this last step, we are going to weave around the edge of the loom using the openings. And I usually start where I want it to hang. So I'm going to start right here. And I just hold it here with my index finger. And I go down and then come up. I'm going to go ahead and put a knot on the top. And that completes your intention mobile.